In Europe, guy has just been arrested in Stockholm. We'll tell you about that. Joining us from Washington, Lieutenant Colonel Dakota Wood from the Heritage Foundation, and Jillian Turner, former member of the White House National Security Council under Presidents Bush and Obama. Jillian, we begin with you. Do you see any unintended consequences from this attack in Syria?
There's always the possibility for unintended consequences, but I feel confident that the administration would not have done this had they not gamed out most of the potential sort of side effects and complications here. There's always risks whenever the United States undertakes military action abroad, whether or not we've come under direct attack or not. So, of course, there'll be risks here. But this is not offensive action, as you know, that the United States military has taken. The Russians chose a side in the Syrian conflict 2 years ago when they decided to insert themselves into it under the false pretense of fighting ISIS. So this is really a smart move and a brave, bold move on the part of the U.S., but really defensive.
Okay, now you were in the Obama White House, and you heard me play two sound bites from Kerry and Susan Rice saying, oh, we negotiated it and we didn't have to go to war. That was the mantra of the 8 years of President Obama. We can negotiate anything. And now we see that Assad, yeah, he probably destroyed some stuff, but he kept some stuff, and now 20 babies are dead. When you were in the Obama White House, did you notice that there was a reluctance to do what Donald Trump did?
Well, I don't think you had to be at the White House to notice the reluctance to do that.
You were there.
The whole world saw
unlike
this.
The rest of us who are on the outside looking in, you're on the inside looking out. Did you notice when you were there that reluctance?
I will say, I will go with yes. I think it would be hard to not see, the decisions that folks made in the administration in 2013 when I was there, when I was already gone from the White House, I did not see firsthand, but the results of those conversations that they had were seen all around the world, and the effects are felt up until today. So I think it's obvious there was reluctance.
Okay. Colonel Wood, when you saw the missiles hit the airfield in Syria, did anything pop into your mind like Iran's going to do this or Putin's going to do that? That's what we mean by unintended consequences.
Sure. I think you'll have horizontal consequences to that, where Putin might not see a whole lot of opportunity to really up the game in Syria, especially if he doesn't want to go to war with the United States. But he can do things in other theaters, like Ukraine continues to dismember that country, much more provocative actions against the Baltic states. I was in Lithuania last week, very concerned about what they're doing in the Baltic Sea, the Arctic. So there are a lot of other places where Putin can play a strong hand to stymie U.S. efforts, to dismember alliances, and certainly with a veto power on the UN Security Council, they can create all kinds of havoc. Anything to do with Israel or U.S. effort to get sanctions against North Korea or actions in the South China Sea against China. So I think it's a pretty broad playing board, and Putin will move his checkers as he thinks he can get an upper hand in other areas.
But I can't imagine that Vladimir Putin cares about Assad on a personal level or any other level. I mean, no, he'll do mischief just because that's what he likes to do. And Jillian, the Chinese were interesting because the foreign minister came out and he didn't really condemn the action, just said, oh, everybody should calm down, and that's what I was looking for, a joint statement of any kind by the Chinese president and Donald Trump today. We didn't get anything. I mean, all they did is they had snacks at Mar-a-Lago, I guess, and then
they
I don't know what else they did there.
They sidestepped out of the resort, and got on the plane and hopped, it was like, we're just going to try and sidle on out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was strange. I can't imagine how awkward, on a protocol level that must have been for these two leaders the first time they've ever met face to face, so many issues between them, and meanwhile there's this huge elephant in the room, which is that the president's going back to his room at night and, dropping bombs in Syria. It's a little bit.
I don't think it was awkward for Trump at all. I think he saw this as a real advantage. He comes in big and bold, taking military action against a bunch of, just vile people, dropping sarin gas on babies and all. So I think it actually gave him a greater competitive advantage in any discussions with the leader of China.
But, the Chinese never show their hand. They never let you know what they're thinking. The Chinese bureaucrats I'm talking about.
Sure.
So you don't know. You know, there's a face they put on. But I was looking for something out of President Xi. He got nothing. So we don't know what happened there. We don't even know if he liked the food. We don't know anything.
A very short period of time, though.
That was the beauty
of Trump's action, though, is it was very aggressive, no warning. He just acted, and then 6, 8, 10 hours later, the Chinese premier is trying to figure out what to do with that. So I'm not surprised by the silence. They're having to recalculate their interests in North Korea and other places, and I think keeping mum was probably the best course of action for the Chinese.
Yeah, they would probably do that anyway on American soil. But it was fascinating. You could just see Donald Trump. President Xi pass the pie. And by the way, in 3 minutes, 60 tomahawks are going to be launched in Syria. Would you like a little more tea?
Exactly.
Because that's what had happened. During the dinner, that's when they all went. I thought they would at least wait until the factor was over, but they didn't. All right, thanks very much, guys. We appreciate it. Plenty more ahead as the factor moves along this evening. We'll talk to White House advisor Dr. Sebastian Gorka about world reaction to the missile attack. But next, Judge Gorsuch finally on the Supreme Court.